GM everyone. Welcome to the founder stage today. Hi everyone, I'm Lena, DevRel Lead at Celo Core Co. And Celo is a leading Ethereum L2 and as the frontier chain for global impact, we're scaling real-world solutions for all. And this is the founder stage with MiniPay, where we highlight the builders are making stablecoins work for millions of users. And MiniPay is a self-custodial stablecoin wallet built on Celo with over 15 million activations globally. Near zero fee transactions are making stablecoins useful throughout the world. And today I have a very exciting guest, Chris from Fonbnk. Hi, Chris. Great
Hey,
to
Lena.
have you here.
Hey, Lena.
Hi,
Pleasure.
hi.
Really appreciate it.
So we are going to talk today about Fonbnk, its journey building on Celo, your partnership with MiniPay, and we also have an exciting announcement. I think people might have seen it on MiniPay, but we are also here live sharing more about it. But before we go into Fonbnk, can you do a quick intro, Chris, about your background and your journey to Fonbnk?
Sure. I'm Chris Duffus. I'm the founder, CEO of Fonbnk, and it's been a long, fun journey in building. But before this venture, I've been at it quite some time, having sold 3 various fintech companies, as well as being involved in telecommunications, which in many respects is sort of how we got started in Fonbnk to figure out a way to try to use existing telecommunications networks as a type of payment rail. And I'll even sort of provide sort of the catalyst for even how I got into Fonbnk, which I think is an interesting story. I'm Jamaican by birth. Actually, had never been to the continent, but my brother-in-law went to holiday in Kenya a few years ago, and he came back with a Safaricom SIM. And he was telling me how he used, M-Pesa, which is sort of the local mobile money payment rail there, to buy everything while he was on the ground. He's like, hey, I bought coffee. I was able to pay my bar tab. And then when I ran out, I had some extra mobile data credits. And I tipped a cab driver with that, and it was happy. And he just showed me sort of how ubiquitous this service was locally. And long story short, I invited him over to my house. We're sitting at my kitchen table, and I plugged the SIM in to my iPhone, and it registers on T-Mobile. And we both looked sort of dumbfounded. He's like, oh, wow, I thought this had expired because it had been a few months since his holiday. Anyway, after a long discussion about use and so forth and how you could transfer mobile data credits, he was like, I bet you can't resell this balance, which is about 1,000 shilling at the time, or $10 USD. He's like, I bet you can't resell this back to someone in Kenya. And being that it was my brother-in-law, and we had a holiday coming up, I didn't want to make fun of me at the dinner table. I devised this hack where I took out some Facebook ads doing some minimum spend daily, and set it up where people that liked M-Pesa and Safaricom would get shown the ad. Totally forget about it. Then I get a bill from Facebook a couple days later, and saying my targets had been reached. And I was like, what did I get myself into? I go in to turn it off because I'm like, I need to end this madness. And lo and behold, a couple of people had responded, and I was surprised. And so I was like, all right, well, let me invite them to a WhatsApp group. So I quickly set up a WhatsApp group, and the first person that responded, I sold them the mobile data credits, or airtime, as they call it there, using the M-Pesa account and transferring the credits. And that was sort of the genesis of Fonbnk, where we started out as a type of secondary market exchange for prepaid mobile data credits across Africa, and probably our sort of unique value proposition at the time, and this was about 5 years ago, was that we were the first to enable people to swap their mobile data credits into stablecoins.
What an incredible story, and thank you for keeping it for me. So this is something new that I'm learning about Fonbnk and your story. And now you're live on MiniPay and you're serving so many people. So that's an incredible journey also from running an ad on Facebook, right? And now you have this huge on and off ramp and more. Just for the users at home or like the viewers at home who haven't traveled to Kenya or don't have an understanding from of MiniPay on and off ramps yet. I would love, I know you prepared a demo. Should we show everyone a little bit how it looks like? Let me add this.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And just to sort of emphasize, we've evolved, and it's been an iterative process, into a ramp service, which means that people can use familiar local payment methods like M-Pesa in Kenya and use that to add value into their MiniPay wallet, where it settles in their preferred stablecoins on the Celo ecosystem. And we have, various different types of mobile money across the continent and world, for that matter, that we support, whether it's M-Pesa in Kenya or real-time bank payments, NIBs in Nigeria, and then now even like Pix in Brazil or Gcash in Philippines.
Yeah. I think we just saw the video and it was like so quick, right? In less than a minute, you have your money off-ramped, basically. And I think that obviously enables a lot of use cases for so many users. And as you mentioned, worldwide now, in LATAM and Asia as well. So very, very excited to also go into detail a bit later. And where people can use Fonbnk. But just like going back to the beginning, when you founded Fonbnk, you started off in the Celo ecosystem. What was your journey? What kind of support did you receive? I know you went into Celo Camp. I guess it was the first one.
Yeah, I think so. In many respects, like I'd been following Celo and the white paper from pretty much the launch, and in as much as and I felt that there was an alignment there, right? In that, as simple as like a mobile phone number could also act as a crypto wallet, but also sort of the impact ethos, right? And I saw some of the early ecosystem, and through the I spoke to a couple of people in the boot camp, and what really was impressed upon me was the type of accessibility and engagement that they offered with this, which I thought was really amazing early on. Heck, they even had sort of yoga instructions, and this was a virtual program with global participation, which I thought was another pretty amazing feature. Highly diverse, obviously, in every different sort of respect that you might think about in terms of that, and so we had a really sort of impactful time period, or at least we felt that experience was pretty amazing, and it really drove sort of motivation for us to build in this and to follow the ethos, which I think was very much aligned with what we were doing at Fonbnk.
Yeah. I love that also, that you're mentioning the accessibility aspect, because I mean, you started with Fonbnk and you required also this kind of like phone number mapping, or it was a crucial part. So like, I guess when you started, Celo was still is the only chain with this phone number mapping. So it just made sense also from an infra perspective for you to build on Celo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And then you built on Celo, and then quite quickly also you got discovered by Opera. Can you share more about like how did
Sure,
that
sure,
connection happen?
sure. And
And what did that mean for Fonbnk as a product?
and just as an FYI, like there's we're probably pre-seed MiniPay by 18 months or so. But obviously I was familiar with Opera and what they were doing across the continent. As I mentioned, we started out as this secondary market for prepaid mobile data. And our market participants came to us and said, hey, look, there's a lot of friction in transferring secondary market airtime, which is what we're known for. And we're probably the best leading provider of that type of solution globally. But some of our market participants came to us and say, look, why wouldn't you use mobile money as part of your sort of payment flow? It's the same transaction lifecycle, lower friction, and we think it'll have sort of better returns or velocity in the marketplace. We studied it and we're like, yeah, it follows our existing sort of frameworks and models, so it was relatively incremental to add it. And we did it, and volumes increased 10x. And we're like, oh wow, so there's maybe something here. And along, I think around that time, we a product manager reached out from Opera reached out to us, and this was sort of around the time when they were, had first sort of maybe inked the deal with Celo, and it was somewhat conceptual at the time, and they were sort of internally building this. And they're like, hey, we love what you're doing with Airtime, and as a payment rail, we think that fits, very much in alignment with what we're doing, and maps to many local behaviors. We'd love to sort of add that to sort of the product roadmap in terms of what. And so but they're like, we want you to, we don't want the app, and that's how we started. We have an app that enabled the marketplace. So they're like, well, we need like a widget, right, or some way in which we could take that piece that does the user flow that you saw in the demo and just sort of isolate that into our app. And we did that, and volumes went up 10x again. And so we're like, oh wow, this is, there's something to this sort of iterative process where you listen to customers and various stakeholders and to build. And I think that was sort of the genesis of kind of our current relationship with MiniPay, and sort of describe sort of how we think about the sort of the process of working with the Celo and MiniPay and the broader ecosystem.
And before I talk more to you about like the whole development of the product, you went from just mobile money Airtime, as you mentioned, to mobile money, and now even more product or like offerings. How was that product development? Just like you mentioned, it gives you a lot of growth, and it expanded a lot of the markets for you. Just for how did that teach you like about the people you were building for, the audience, and yeah?
I think, and mind you, we work with all the leading non-custodial wallets globally that want to go to market in the regions. And I think sort of the success and differentiation of MiniPay, and kudos to the product team there, is that they know the markets, they understand that there's differences in the markets, and I break it down to a simple word. I call it sort of being empathetic, right? It's one thing to be able to say, hey, like, we're in this particular location, but you got to go out and visit the countries, meet the people, develop teams and relationships, understand some of the nuances in markets. Like we had a discussion the other day about like, how we might categorize different payment flows, whether it's bank, mobile money, and then in certain countries, like the mobile money name sort of is the specific sort of service provider is more well known maybe than the concept of mobile money, and you should just feature that, right? And very few product organizations in general, regardless of the industry, are willing to be sort of customer forward in the same way. And I think that's actually a huge thing in terms of like any consumer type technology solution or product, but also definitely I think highly innovative in sort of the Web3 domain. But again, this coming from an organization that serves, tens of millions of users historically around the globe, over-indexing in many emerging markets that are similar but very, very different across the board.
When you talk about this like mobile money and on-ramp and the empathy and the different markets, like what does it enable for the user on the ground? The having this like mobile money to stablecoin.
I think part of it is again a simple word term, accessibility, right? If there's a certain muscle memory around mobile money and sort of real-time payments, and that is distinct from market to market, right? In terms of just how your thumb moves around on your phone. And so if you have to significantly change the behaviors, you got to get people have to think about it. And in some cases, think about it a little bit too hard, which makes the product, it might not be as usable, right? It breaks down into simple things like conversion rates. And so these are the things that we think about. And so if you make it something that's, while it might be new, but it's also, paradoxically sort of very familiar, it just, it's a natural sort of product market fit enablement.
Yeah, I remember when we talked about that, like when I went to Kenya myself and I used Fonbnk, I think and using MiniPay, I think the main thing that one of the biggest things that MiniPay unlocked with the help of Fonbnk as the on and off ramp is this kind of also saving in stable coins, paying in local currency, and making it so easy and accessible, exactly as you say, with the familiar payment, implementing familiar payment streams and easy to understand for the users, right? And now, like you started with M-Pesa in Kenya, and now you're already live in more than 20 countries. You mentioned you launched in Brazil and Philippines. How did that growth happen? How are those markets differentiating? And yeah, can you share more about that journey?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is, in Africa, there's like 50 different currencies and 50 different countries, right? Like, and obviously you have your large established economies like Nigeria or Ghana, South Africa, Kenya, but you have a lot of smaller ones too. And so as, what Fonbnk really is at its core is a type of orchestration layer. We work with licensed payment providers who have the domain expertise and some of the local infrastructure, and we provide our sort of accessibility layer on top of that, so that we can plug into and program the logic into what a MiniPay user sees and has access to, right? And so, from each market, each provider, there's been some type of nuance related to that we've had to address. And, we also worked with protocols like Celo, where we do all types of activation events and activities. Sometimes we partner with the actual applications or DeFi applications themselves and leverage the platforms in particular markets to drive adoptions. Like we've done things with Mento and their various sort of FX stablecoins that are hyper localized to various sort of African and other sort of emerging market currencies, and you use that as sort of a leverage a wedge to sort of drive adoption in particular markets, right? And again, like I think part of your question, to answer it simply, is like creating sort of highly configured tools or solutions that relate to a particular market, right? Whether it's, hey, we're on MiniPay and we are running a campaign with, the CKES, which is the Celo or Mento version of Kenyan shilling, or the same in Ghana, right? And working and partnering with various sort of local providers to sort of drive use in those specific markets.
When you were talking also about like the different markets, and I think especially interesting for me is also just like now as Brazil and Philippines. So how, like, what surprised you most, or what was like the biggest like hurdle on new things that you needed to learn or understand about those markets and technology you implemented?
Yeah, so obviously, like, languages are very different, and obviously there's cultural differences, but where that sort of maps back to what we do, it's things like, okay, this is what we call mobile money in this part of the world, right, versus another, and then that might have various sort of permutations or nuance in terms of the documentation, in terms of how it's the partners describe what they're offering. From a user experience, there's a lot of commonality, which in many respects was very surprising to me. Like, and in many respects, whether it's MiniPay, us, we're providing a type of financial primitives to people that didn't necessarily have access to them, historically. And, this sort of overlay logic and layer that we've created on this existing sort of real-time payment infrastructure, that's sort of a universal commonality that we're making available, and the simpler it can be, the more accessible it can be, and so not surprising that things are different, but surprising that there is a lot of commonality when it comes to some of these financial primitives that we're offering at global scale.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing super interesting insights. When it comes to the partnership with MiniPay, let's talk a little bit about that. We had a little chat before, but I guess your partnership with MiniPay is very special. It sounded like there was a lot of like a very good feedback loop in both direction, and like a lot of shared growth. Can you share a bit more about that?
Yeah. I mean, just candidly, like I remember one of the first calls that we had with the product team at MiniPay, and I remember sort of debriefing with my guys, dev team, and I was like, these guys are super smart. They're world-class product managers, and while it might feel challenging initially, we're going to learn a lot from them. And so we should listen. And, like many in the tech space, or folks are younger in their careers, and, people always talk about mentorships and the like. Well, I sort of set this up as a type of mentorship for my product team and internally our team, and, to sort of leverage that experience and insights. And obviously, like, we want to be smart, intelligent about sort of what we do, but I think there was a common shared interest in for both of our teams in terms of growth, and that really came across, with this sort of relationship.
I love so much that what you're saying also about this. The mentorship or like the feedback, because what I really try to explain a lot of the founders that I work with and from the DevRel perspective is being able to partnering with Opera and MiniPay and with a team with so much expertise. as you said, you just learn so much, you can grow so much, and it's you don't only get the huge distribution, but you also grow a lot as like from a product perspective and from like an like in your expertise and how you're able to partner with such a huge established company and partner.
And what
Yeah.
I'd also add too, just and because of this relationship, and and they're growing in the same way that we were growing, while they might be a larger company. MiniPay was a new product for
Yeah.
Opera, and so we had a sort of quite an iterative sort of relationship. And and I would say this to many of the other partners out there too. It's like, hey, if you can help them, if you can show value, they'll allow you to take on more responsibility and business, within that ecosystem. And so we've done programs like, we call it HODL and Earn with USDT rewards, but as part of you leveraging that distribution where we were part of that. And, we set up the infrastructure to sort of monitor that. And, but these are the types of examples of things that we've done above and beyond just the sort of ramping services, right? These are complementary to that. But and I'm again really excited about sort of the future of what MiniPay and our relationship holds.
Amazing. I think moving on, I think we are already like moving towards the end. I think this was very nicely put about the relationship, but do you have any numbers you can share with, like you mentioned, you had this 10x growth through MiniPay distribution. Do you have any numbers or signals that Fonbnk, how Fonbnk is successful right now, not just in terms of volume, but also like user behavior, but also kind of like what the volume you also got through MiniPay? Maybe you have something that you can share.
Yeah. I mean, what I'll share is like we've done tens of millions of transactions, and what makes us unique, probably among ramp services on the continent, is that we're really focused on small ticket, high volume use cases. So very consumer. We work with sort of enterprise channel partners like MiniPay, but in order to do that, we've had to set up, a comprehensive sort of customer support infrastructure for this. Obviously they're tentative, and this is part of the relationship, right? So we've designed our platform for global scale, right? On an absolute basis, and as is MiniPay. So in order to sort of keep up with them, we've had to sort of make those types of investments, whether it's personnel. So it's not just technology, but it's like a certain sort of attentiveness. And I think that's something that, just because you have good tech doesn't mean it's a great product. And product includes sort of that set of customer relationships, whether it's users, or your partner, right? And so we think about those things every day in terms of our go-to-market. And in many respects, it's those types of intangibles that keeps me up at night.
Yeah, I think customer support with the ramp is one of the most crucial parts to like create the trust with the consumer, right? I always love to ask my guests if they have a favorite user story of somebody using their product that stuck in your mind.
Yeah. I'll share two. One very specific to MiniPay and the Celo ecosystem. I forget the young man's name, but he was, I think it was like a tuk-tuk driver in Ghana, and in right outside of Accra on the beach. They have these little three-wheeled sort of motorcycles that tourists get sent around on, or when they go on a beach holiday. So we set him up. He uses the MiniPay wallet and local mobile money to accept payment. for his tuk-tuk services, right? And he put our sticker, the MiniPay and the Fonbnk sticker on the back of his vehicle, and so people know that that's a acceptable payment rail. Which obviously I think that's sort of the future of like what we're all trying to do is make it accessible like that in a shop. The others are things like another one is we had some young users along the way that used it to pay for international college and graduate school fees, right? And I'm always sort of partial to helping people sort of improve themselves and providing this is the exact type of infrastructure that I think we all strive for in making the world a better place by giving people opportunity to access or global opportunities, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's why we started working in blockchain, I think, right? So yeah, thank you for sharing those stories. I think now another question more focused on the builders who are watching. You already mentioned that for building out Fonbnk, one of your main focus is also building out the customer support. What other advice would you give to founders working for MiniPay that they might underestimate when they're trying to grow real user numbers and scale through MiniPay?
I mean, remember, as a self-custodial ecosystem, I think a lot of the engagement and activity is upon the sort of mini app builders, right? And just it's like, what's that adage? If a tree falls in the wood and no one's there, does it make a sound? So they have to figure out ways to sort of drive user adoption and engagement, and while providing sort of great support along the way, so that sort of magic quadrant experience. So this is where I go out to like even things like what we do, and we can support various sort of mini apps in their journey within the ecosystem. We even do things like, and this is how we got started with prepaid airtime. It's still a great sort of incentive for sort of users across Africa, right? Mobile data costs are actually really, really expensive. In some cases, they're 10x more expensive, per megabyte of data than in the West, right? So any type of subsidy along those ways gets a lot of interest. So think about what those things are that sort of move adoption for you. Be hyper focused on the flows and ease of use.
Yeah. Thank you. I think this will be great feedback for a lot of our builders. My last question is, I think we're already ending our stream, but I wanted to talk a bit more about your new product. It launched yesterday, I think. It was a huge announcement. Should we demo it first and then we go a little bit into what you're solving with this? Congratulations on launching. I think it's a great testimony to the quality of the work and how you have been working with MiniPay on this. And I'm very, very excited for this launch. And let me just show the video and then we can talk a little bit more about as you can see here, you can see the mini apps, and then you open the Fonbnk app, and then
this is essentially our pay bills and buy goods mini app, and the real purpose of this is to remove a lot of the friction in local sort of real world payments. So if I go into a store and or a shop and I want to buy a cup of coffee or some groceries, I can do this in a way, with my MiniPay wallet, in the way that I might use a traditional M-Pesa wallet. And if you think about it, like, the way I sort of surmised this many years ago is that like I got some pleasantry from my bank saying, "Oh, thank you for your many years of service," and I was like, "Oh, really?" I was like, first off, I was like, I'm that old where I can have like 2 decades worth of service, with that, and it just hit me like banking apps are really sticky, right? Like once you turn it on, you're never gonna, and if it works for you, you're not gonna necessarily close it, right? And so, in many respects, that's what the future of the blockchain, especially stablecoins, and this is sort of the path that MiniPay I think has charted, in a world leading way. And to the extent that you can now store dollars for people that where it's not democratically accessible, to do that across the board in these economies, and they can now use it to buy food, water, shelter, in a self-custodial way. That's sort of the magic quadrant solution that I think, whether it's ourselves, MiniPay, the other partners in the ecosystem are trying to solve for every day. And I think that's what this sort of new product offering is really about, is like, we just want to make it super simple, removing the friction and hyper familiar to what they're doing. But now we're sort of plugging in this sort of blockchain infrastructure and stablecoin infrastructure to that flow.
Amazing. So to summarize, just like for everybody who has not yet used MiniPay, what we showed first was an on and off ramp where you can like move your own money between your mobile money, your airtime, and stable coins. And now the new product that you are providing is actually paying bills, right? You can go basically in any shop. If I travel to Kenya, I don't need to buy my M-Pesa SIM card. I can just use MiniPay and Fonbnk and pay for everything.
Well, you still need to have an M-Pesa account, right? Or at least that's how you do your on ramping. But what we but what we do is we enable you to leverage that sort of merchant payment infrastructure that M-Pesa has right from your MiniPay wallet.
Yeah. Amazing. Congratulations on the launch. Where are you live now? In Kenya? And
we're live in nearly 20 different markets across the global south, but our largest, Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, Uganda, South Africa, Senegal.
With the ramp, right? And with the new PayBill app also the same?
Got it. Yeah. With the ramp, we're live. With the PayBill app, there's a flavor of it in Nigeria as well. And every market where we can reasonably accommodate the same type of flow.
Yeah. Okay, very, very exciting. Thank you so much, Chris, for joining today. I think, thank you so much for providing such great infra for MiniPay. I think you are definitely distributing to making MiniPay such a great product. I want to let everybody know, in case you're interested, also if you're a founder, if you're building something that you think fits to MiniPay, make sure to submit your app here in this link. And in case you want to reach out, I saw somebody asking to find my socials. It's gigahertz. Let me just put it in here. And do you have how can people best, I will also share the link to your, I will share the link to your Twitter account so people can also follow you for any announcement of your product and anything that is coming for Fonbnk. But in the meantime, thank you so much, Chris, for joining. This was so much fun and very, very excited for all of the updates that are also coming with the PayBill app. And let me just share this link. And then for everybody.
And for what it's worth, like I wouldn't have got here without mentors, and I'm, wholeheartedly, I'm a big fan of the sort of MiniPay Celo boot camp. It's how we got our start, and happy whether it's me individually or Fonbnk as an organization. We're happy to shepherd your startup along the way, and we do that every day, right? Because this is how we grow and come up with new ideas to go to market, and we view ourselves, because of our relationship, a great conduit to access the ecosystem, if not directly.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I mean, I work in DevRel. I believe in mentorship. It's the best way of growing the ecosystem. And so, yeah, feel free, everybody, if you've been watching, make sure to reach out to Chris. Make sure to also follow our Celo account, Celo Devs account. That's for our DevRel, run by our DevRel team, to learn about any updates on developer programs and grants that we are offering, especially with focus on building on MiniPay. So yeah, thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you.
Looking forward to seeing Fonbnk grow even more, and with the shared success of Fonbnk and MiniPay. And yeah, thank you so much for joining, and I wish you a lovely day. Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.